Okay, Chitra, please introduce yourself fully and tell us about your work, and please tell us a story.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm excited to share a story today, but before that, a little introduction. I choose to call myself a visual storyteller, which is not to say that it's devoid of verbal storytelling or oral storytelling. Uh, but yeah, my tryst with storytelling started with this fascination with animation and illustrated books as a child, and so I thought, can you make it your own practice, or can it become an occupation? So I've been practicing visual storytelling for the last 10 years in different contexts, whether it's in the business context or in educational settings or even just creative community circles. And yeah, I think I run a practice called Mographies, which is short for moving graphical stories, where graphical stories move physically, visibly, but they also move emotionally, or that's the aspiration. So today, the story that I've chosen is something that's been handed down to me. It's a traditional story that is about an old woman who lived thousands of years ago, about at least 2,000 years ago. And it was narrated to me by another old woman, my grandmother, and my paternal grandmother, who has always been, this bounty of stories, bedtime stories that I and my sister have grown up with. And so this is a very dear and a simple story. But the real kernel of, or the gem of wisdom was something that I discovered about 3 years back, when the same story was unpacked with a master teller like Laura Sims. So it is a personal take on some life lessons that I've learned, but I hope I'm able to share it with you all. So without much ado, on one hot, blazing summer afternoon, this old woman I just talked about walked bare feet across a sparsely vegetated, dry, dreary, hilly landscape. She was on a mission, and it was a long, treacherous walk. This landscape that I mentioned is now referred to as Paramudir Chole, not far away from the city called Madurai in Tamil Nadu. So the woman was out on a mission. She had firm footsteps. She had beads of sweat trickling down her wrinkled face. Her gray, frizzy hair was almost blending with the landscape, but it had hidden within it an extraordinary mind of a literary genius, which many have hailed as one of the greatest poets of the Tamil Sangam era. Her name was Avvaiyyar. Her knotty, gnarled old fingers held onto a wooden staff, and one of her bony shoulders carried a bundle of all of her life's works, palm leaf scriptures. So the firm grip of the wooden staff and her firm footsteps were merely a manifestation of her firm belief that in her ripe old age, there was nothing more left to do. She had no more creativity left in her, and all the play of words that she'd done so far was all of her life's work. There was nothing else to look up to except the ultimate moksha, or salvation. As she walked on, she came across a grove of fruit trees. She realized her feet had worn out and she wanted to rest a bit. She found a shaded spot and made herself comfortable. There from the distance, she could hear soft jingling bells of a herd of cattle that had just wandered by near her. And somebody called out to her, "Hey, Grandma, look up here." She looked up gradually and was straining her eyes to see who was it that was calling out to her. The foliage was thick, the tree cover was dense, and there she spotted a little boy. A boy that was munching onto something and trying to spit out the seed. And the boy was very nonchalantly seated with a stick around his shoulder, dangling his feet as he was perched on a branch of a Java plum tree or a jamun tree, as it's called in India. And he called out to her again, "Hey, Grandma, you look tired and thirsty. Do you want me to throw you some of these really yummy fruits? They are juicy, fleshy, so refreshing. I guarantee these are the best in the forest." She looked up at the boy, amused at the boy's excitement, and said, "Yes, I'd love that, boy." And the boy replied to her, had a very unusual question to ask. "Okay, Grandma, so tell me, do you want the roasted fruits or the unroasted one?" That was a strange question. Where on earth are fruits really roasted, she thought to herself. But studying the boy's mannerisms, she guessed, he's a simpleton, poor village shepherd boy. What has he got to know? So she replied, playing along, said, "I'd like some unroasted fruits, boys." So the boy said, "Okay, Grandma." And then he started shaking the branches of the tree. And then plop, plop, plop fell the juicy Java plum fruits. They fell on the ground. So the woman, again, got herself up on her feet, walked a little forward. She bent down to pick a handful of those fallen fruits. She picked herself up and then she noticed the fruits were covered with mud and dust. And so she picked one in her hand and then she brought it close to her mouth and she started blowing at it. At which she heard the boy call out to her again. The boy said, "Grandma, is it too hot? Didn't you really ask me for unroasted fruits? Remember?" The woman had her eyes wide open. She had a flash of inspiration. She was frozen. Was this an illiterate, simpleton village shepherd boy who just defeated me with a play on words? In that moment, she had a song welling out of her, the words of which go like this: "The axe that never gave in to the hardest of the ebony log gave in and slipped past a tender plantain stem. In this huge forest, I, an old wise woman, got defeated by a simple village shepherd boy. My eyes are wide open and they will be sleepless for the next 2 nights." As she snapped out of her stupor, she saw the boy was standing in front of her. And the boy was smirking and grinning, at which she asked, "Tell me, boy, who are you really? What is your true identity? Are you really a shepherd boy?" To which the boy said, now with hands tied like that, "Tell me, Avvai, you are a wise one. You have a way with words. You tell me who I really am." When she was challenged like this, she almost folded her hands, closed her eyes, and in deep thought, she had a flash of light in her mind's eye. She could see the resplendent image of Lord Murugan, standing there tall with his golden staff, a spear, and with a majestic peacock sitting nearby. As she opened her eyes slowly, she saw the same image of Lord Murugan standing right in front of her, almost blessing her. In that instance, Avvaiyyar, knew her work in this earthly life is hardly done. She has so much more to give, so much more creativity to offer. And in times that passed later, she was known for prolific works of not just teaching moral values to little children, or making peace between warring kings, or even pleasing and entertaining potters, weavers, and farmers. Her words are now emblazoned even in most advanced space research agencies like the NASA, where her words are famous in this form. What we know is only but a grain of sand in our hands. What we don't know is the entire wide ocean of the universe. And that brings us to a right time to revisit that moment of awakening where Avvai was able to open her eyes, enter the awakening out of his stupor of pride of her own wisdom and ignorance of so much more that she was yet to offer. And this is a time where I would like Eric to take us to the place where you can see a glimpse of the visual tale, revisiting some of the episodes of that little conversation, and also inviting you to take your own journey back into your memory lanes, identifying those moments of awakening where you were rocked back into reality, into your own awakening. Thank you so much. That was a small, simple tale, but yeah, it's one that's very close to me. And you can move on to the last one. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you. So that story was especially about the moment where Avvaiyyar realized it was not just a boy, it was really Murugan.
Yes.
She had the inner vision to perceive that.
To perceive that, and it was also a moment for her to recognize or realize that she shouldn't take anyone at their face value and presume that they are knowledgeable or not just by how they look or their status. So yeah. And as also in the tradition, in the Christian tradition, it says that the father is the child is the father of the man. So it kind of replayed something that, you know, there's still something that you can learn from a younger person. Yeah, as Divya says, yeah. It's a traditional tale that many Tamil families grew up listening to.
Chitra, maybe for those who don't know, why don't you tell the basic story of Avvaiyyar?
Pardon? Like,
you know, the story of how her parents were pressuring her to get married. And
okay. In fact, Avvaiyyar is actually a generic title. Like Avvai is a respected woman or an old wise woman, and there's a lot of mystery around her own identity. But was she just one woman throughout history, or were there many other Avvaiyyars in human history? And so there was one Avvaiyyar from the Sangam era, and there was one Avvaiyyar at a later 12th, 13th century, around that time. And presumably there were 3 or more Avvaiyyars. So one particular version, which was supposed to be a later version, is when Avvaiyyar was young, but she didn't want to enter this whole journey of marrying and having her own family and, you know, being caught up in the mundane life that a woman had, the fate of a regular woman being born as a woman. And so she prayed to Lord Ganesha, the elephant-headed god, that she gets some, you know, freedom from this, independence from this cycle of life. And so apparently Ganesha blessed her or gave her a boon that she was made to look older than her years, and she started looking like an old woman. And then she was able to live her life devoted to what she loved, which was poetry and singing, and dedicating her life to her art and craft. So that is one particular story. And as she moved along, there are many such tales. In fact, there is another interesting connection between Avvaiyyar and a fruit, another fruit this time. It was supposed to be a rare kind of gooseberry, which was again a purple colored gooseberry. And it was so rare that one of the kings was enticed into saying that you must find this, it's, you know, hidden way up in a hill. And it's only the toughest, the most determined of people who can actually go and get it. So he did manage. So this was Adyaman. He was a Chera king, if I'm right. So he was a ruler in the parts of Tamil Nadu. And he did go and get it. And Avvaiyyar was a big, fan of Adhyaman for his valor and his wisdom. And they both were very thick friends. So when he came back from his hunt and found that gooseberry, he sent out the word to his minister saying, bring Avvaiyyar to my palace. So Avvaiyyar was overjoyed to see that he had come victorious from the mission. And she was surprised to see that Adhyaman had offered this fruit to Avvaiyyar, saying that, kings like me, they come and go, but poets like you are really what keep Tamil culture alive, and I want you to live forever. So the magic of the fruit is that whoever eats it lives for very long. And he offered to give away the fruit to Avvaiyyar, which is also the myth that makes people think that she ate that fruit that gave her immortality, that she has been living for the thousands of years in different avatars. So it's a very fascinating story, tracing Avvaiyyar also as a character, as a legend now. And she still lives because some of her poetry and words are even now learned in Tamil schools, they're part of Tamil textbooks for young children. And the most amazing bit was her realization of limited and unlimited knowledge. So, and that was picked up by, I think, Carl Sagan, if I'm not wrong. So I'm not sure who picked up that, but it was made as a part of the NASA's exhibition, and it kind of sits there because a lot of the universe is undiscovered, and we're all out to know what's beyond Earth. So yeah,
And her statue is on the beach here in Chennai.
Yes.
Very prominent and very striking because it's she's not following the standard pattern of what a woman is expected to do. But we have to really give credit to the people who put up her statue. That they had the respect for her as an artist. All right, wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you everyone for listening. Thank you.